Good morning. My name is Elena Martí. I teach French in high school at the American School of Valencia in Spain. I'm here today to share with you my thoughts as a teacher about this new situation that we are living right now due to COVID-19. Language teachers face increasingly diversified groups of students in terms of skills, interests, cultural backgrounds, and experience in learning languages. The challenge to adapt our lessons to these diverse groups of students got bigger due to COVID-19. We need to be ready for changes, and also our lessons need to fix whatever new situation that may appear. In addition, we need to keep students engaged and motivated. So adaptability and collaboration are becoming the words that best describe our new reality. Adaptability because we cannot plan what's going to happen tomorrow. How many students will be present in the classroom and how many online? Will we keep the school open? Collaboration because there's no way we can get out of this alone, as a country, as a community, or as an individual. The best defense is communication, collaboration, and solidarity. So the question is, what are we preparing students to do? And how do we want them to feel? More than ever, it's important to connect students to real life, giving them choices and opportunities to show their thinking, their understanding, and their progress. It seems essential to find a way to engage the students by awakening curiosity, developing reflection, and by encouraging independence as learners. When curiosity is awake, paying attention is an unconscious and immediate reaction, which is fundamental to create knowledge. This emotional spark that represents curiosity should be considered by teachers in a conscious way while planning lessons. Unfortunately, it's not always an easy task to surprise young people who live with their eyes glued to internet with something new. However, we can invite them to discover paths that they would hardly choose for themselves, through questions whose answers require reflection and not just a simple Google search. If we also get them to collaborate with students from other countries to be able to draw conclusions, at the end of the road, they will develop not only knowledge but skills that will help them to be better communicators, but also critical thinkers, respectful, and curious with other cultures. If learning is the result of our thinking, therefore, it has to be conceived as an active process by teachers whose role is now to facilitate opportunities for thinking and make this thinking process visible in order to provide a continuous and constructive feedback. In order to put these principles into practice, a collaborative project was proposed to high school students from different backgrounds, but following the same language program. So this is the example of a collaborative project in the French class. The experience took place with a group of 16-year-old students in their first year of the IB diploma program. Language B course is an acquisition language course for non-beginner students. The level of language proficiency of the students covered the range between B1 and B2 according to the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. The American School of Valencia in Spain and the Campion School in Athens agreed to put students together to work in mixed groups in order to explore and share thoughts about one of the topics of the program. So from the 5 prescribed themes of the program, we chose identities, and more specifically, language and identity. At the end of the experience, students had to be able to answer and develop the question, how does language reflect our identity? To introduce the topic language and identity, students were asked in class, who are you? Why? What identifies you? The most immediate answers were their name, age, and nationality. And this is not a surprise. Our name is the first thing we would all answer to the question, who are you? Then they were asked if they would be someone different if they had a different name. The general answer was no, of course, because it's just a word and we are more than that. And it may be true, but the idea was to make them think about the importance of words. So they were exposed to a video from France Info, C'est du racisme à bas bruit, where a man called Mohamed Amgar was called Antoine in his enterprise by the will of his boss from the moment he signed his contract. This video was really the hook that brought the students to ask themselves hundreds of questions about language and identity. The purpose of the first online meeting was to introduce each other, to communicate the work groups, the goals, content, and dates of the project. So for the teachers, these were the 5 steps that we followed. First, the introduction, then the groups and initial support. Then we try to make thinking visible. Students wrote their ideas in shared documents and met by groups to discuss and organize their final presentations. And teachers had access to documents and meetings. Then the 4th step was sharing reflection and conclusion. Students had to make their presentation for the whole students. And finally, they had to make a feedback. Students' information was more or less the same. The only difference were the dates. We explained them that they had a total of 3 weeks to meet together, and they will also have time in the classroom to work with their teachers. The 3 subtopics of research were the following: language and identity, linguistic discrimination, and endangered languages. Each of the groups had questions to answer and clues of research with links of articles, videos, audios, interactive maps, and other resources. But they were invited to look for their own resources as well. The first group had different links related to languages, accents, and personalities: youth language, bilingualism, and biculturality, and the story of a young mixed couple, French-Quebecois. The second had articles and videos about linguistic discrimination, an interactive map to see the variety of regional languages in France, Italy, Spain, and other countries, and the testimony of someone who suffered linguistic discrimination in a famous TV program. Finally, the third group's resources were the most critical and were related to the consequence of colonialism towards local languages and the problem of the endangered languages nowadays. In our project, we followed the basis of Ron Richard and Mark Church's understanding map, making students follow a path while collaborating and sharing with their peers and teachers. So they had to discover the resources, comment, ask questions, and ensure understanding with peers, make connections with previous knowledge, consider different points of view, and build explanations supported with evidence. Ron Richards and Mark Church, in The Power of Making Thinking Visible, affirmed that planning for thinking improves learning, deep understanding, while developing a student's engagement with others, with ideas, and with action. So formative assessment is a process, not a task, of mutual learning and collaboration. It has to be useful and meaningful for both students and teachers. Students becoming active communicative learners, and teachers, students of their students' learning. According to the authors, continuous good feedback needs to emerge from conditions of mutual learning and collaboration, and needs to be based on strengths and weaknesses. In fact, students will ignore feedback unless it's seen as useful and meaningful. Continuous feedback allows students to identify strengths and weaknesses and shows what to do next by reflecting and asking questions to complete ideas, suggesting new research for a better understanding, showing a different point of view to develop critical thinking, or asking for evidence to make the link to real life. Shared documents and online meetings were the opportunity for teachers to have evidence of students' understanding and thinking, and different ways of feedback were possible, but basically, a natural open dialogue with a mutual feedback between teachers and students took place. So let's see what students' feedback was. What they liked the most was meeting with new people, learning about languages, learning about Greece and Spain, collaborate with other students abroad, learning from others, sharing ideas. What they found hard was Google Meets because they were difficult to schedule. Other comments: it was an enriching experience and they liked to meet and work with people from a different country. They would repeat the experience and 100% felt ready to talk or write about language and identity. From teachers' point of view, collaborating with students from a different country made them develop academic, social, and personal skills and seemed to have a better understanding of the topic languages and identity. It was enriching also for teachers to work together. In terms of practice of the French language, students used French in the meetings where teachers were present but tended to speak English when there was no teacher. It's also true that we thought that those meetings without teachers were important as well as icebreakers. Finally, scheduling meetings was really difficult due to incompatibility of school schedules and the time difference of 1 hour between Greece and Spain. But it was possible and we made it. So as a conclusion, I would say that although students need to be in the center of learning process, teachers have an essential role to promote a culture of thinking and sharing in an atmosphere of security, empathy and respect that allow dialogue and debate. But also language teachers have the role of providing students with the link to the real world, to understand the power of words and to respect linguistic and cultural diversity. COVID-19 is reminding us of the essential, and the essential in education may be now to focus on promoting curiosity and opportunities of learning experiences beyond the walls of the classrooms or the lockdowns. As Nuccio Ordine said, we are becoming aware that human relationships, real ones, not virtual ones, are increasingly becoming a luxury item. Technology represents a powerful tool to open windows to the outside when we don't try to replace the magic of human interaction. As we wait for the end of this pandemic, and even later, let's try to humanize education in the broadest sense of the word and make it meaningful so that students can have the feeling that schools are meant to help us to understand ourselves and others and to become better human beings. Thank you very much.